He was down to his last hour. The lights in the apartment flickered. One final warning before the power would go out for good. Leo stared at the eviction notice clutched in his shaking hands, the ink smudged by sweat and something dangerously close to tears. His phone buzzed again. Final notice. Account overdrawn. The numbers meant nothing anymore. He had less than $20 in his bank account, no job, no home after tonight, and no one left to call. The cold gnawed at the edges of his jacket, the one his mother gave him before she passed. Outside, the city moved on without him, indifferent to his silent collapse. He could still taste the blood from earlier. He tried to sell his watch, and things got ugly. One mistake, one lie, one person he shouldn't have trusted. That's all it took. Time was running out. If he didn't do something now, something drastic, it was over. No more second chances, no more waiting for things to turn around, and yet there was a flicker, a memory, a name scratched into the back of an old photo, a plan he swore he'd never follow through on, but maybe, just maybe, that plan was the only way out. What would you do if this was your last chance? Would you fight for redemption, even if it meant becoming someone you no longer recognized? This was Leo's final shot, and the clock wouldn't stop ticking. 3 months ago, Leo was on the edge of something great. His music was finally getting noticed. Small gigs, sure, but people listened. They clapped. They came back. He had a beat-up guitar and a voice that cracked when it mattered most. But damn it, he had dreams. He was working part-time at a garage, saving for a proper demo, even talking to a producer who seemed interested. And then there was Maya. Her laughter made everything feel possible. He wasn't rich. He wasn't famous. But he had hope. And sometimes, hope was everything. Then came the call. It was his brother, Tommy. A voice from a life Leo had fought hard to leave behind. Tommy was in trouble again, deep this time. Debt, drugs, people who didn't ask nicely. He needed help. Just one job, he said. One run. In and out. No one gets hurt. Leo said no. Then he said maybe. Then he said yes. He told himself it was for family, for loyalty, for survival. But really, it was because he was scared of being ordinary, scared of never breaking through. The night it all fell apart, Leo stood outside a warehouse with a duffel bag full of stolen pills and a conscience screaming in his ears. Then came the cops. Then came the running. Then came the fall. Tommy vanished. The job went sideways. Leo lost everything. His job, his savings, Maya. She walked out when she found out, said she didn't recognize him anymore, and honestly, he didn't either. Now, with nothing left but guilt and the echo of broken dreams, Leo stood at the bottom, looking up, wondering if there was still a way out, wondering if the pieces could ever fit back together again. Absolutely. Let's keep the emotional momentum going. Here's the continuation of Leo's story, with parts 2 and 3. Leaning into the rawness of his isolation and the slow, subtle ignition of hope. Days blurred into nights. Leo lost track of how long he'd been crashing on park benches and train station seats, his guitar now just a weight on his back. Not a dream. Just a reminder. The city that once shimmered with promise now spat cold rain and indifferent stares. People walked past him like he was invisible, and that kind of silence was louder than anything. He tried. God, he tried. He walked into stores asking for work, offering to mop floors or stack boxes. They all shook their heads, some not even looking up from their phones. He sold his last set of headphones to eat, then the guitar case. He kept the guitar itself, more out of spite than sentiment. Pride is a stubborn thing. Even when you're starving, he tried calling Maya once, hung up before she answered. What would he even say? Hey, I ruined everything. Want to get coffee? He could hear her voice in his head. You had a choice, Leo, and you chose wrong. The nights were worst. That's when the weight of it all sank in. The mistake, the betrayal, the truth that maybe he was just like Tommy, chasing shortcuts, running from responsibility, always blaming the world. People he used to know avoided eye contact. A friend from the garage crossed the street to dodge him. And inside, Leo started to believe what they saw. A failure, a liar, a criminal. He even tried to go clean. Signed up for a local job program, but the background check flagged him immediately. He was polite, desperate. It didn't matter. He considered going back to the streets in the way Tommy had suggested, slinging pills for quick cash, but the thought made him sick now. He wasn't sure if it was shame or fear. He stopped playing music. The songs dried up. One night, huddled under a bridge with nothing but a threadbare blanket and the hum of passing cars, Leo stared at the sky. Not at the stars. There were none. But at the dark. He realized he hadn't believed in anything in weeks. Not himself. Not a future. Nothing. But just as he drifted into sleep, a sound. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. And a voice he didn't recognize. "Cold night to be out here, huh?" Leo flinched awake, instincts on high alert. The man standing before him looked like he belonged in a different story. Clean coat, pressed jeans, no umbrella despite the drizzle. Older, maybe mid-50s, with sharp eyes and a stillness about him. Not threatening, but unsettling. Like he saw too much. Leo sat up, gripping his guitar like a shield. "I don't have anything." "I didn't ask for anything," the man replied calmly. "Just passing through. Thought you looked like someone who might want a coffee." Leo narrowed his eyes. "Why?" The man shrugged. "Because I've been where you are, and someone did the same for me. That's how it starts sometimes." He handed Leo a steaming cup. No branding, just plain black, still warm. Leo hesitated, then took it, fingers numb against the heat. "I'm not asking for your story," the man added, "but if you ever decide you want to tell it, I'll be around." And just like that, he walked off, into the dark, blending with the city until he disappeared. Leo didn't drink the coffee right away. He just sat there holding it, feeling the warmth seep into his palms. He didn't know the man, didn't trust him. But something about the gesture, the simplicity of it, cracked a little piece of the wall he'd built around himself. Maybe this was nothing. Or maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something. He didn't know yet. But for the first time in weeks, Leo felt curious. Here's the next stage of Leo's journey. The high-stakes choice that forces him to confront everything he's been running from, followed by the grueling but transformative climb back up. We're keeping the emotional weight strong and character-driven while also moving the plot toward that redemptive arc. 3 days passed before Leo saw the stranger again. He was sitting on a bench in the same park, sipping coffee like he had all the time in the world. Leo almost walked past, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the memory of warm coffee on a freezing night. Maybe it was the way the man hadn't asked for anything. "You came back," the man said without looking up. "I didn't say I would." "You didn't have to." Leo sat down, cautious. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "Name's Ellis. Used to run a halfway house for ex-cons. Now I run a studio. Small, underground, real music, no bullshit." Leo blinked. "Studio?" "I need someone with raw talent. Someone who knows what it's like to fall and still get back up. I can't offer money, not yet. But I can offer time, space, a shot." Leo stared at him, skeptical. "Why me?" Ellis leaned in. "Because you haven't given up. Not really. You still carry that guitar. It doesn't mean I deserve another chance. No one deserves one. We take it, or we don't." The words hit like a gut punch. Ellis stood and slipped a card into Leo's hand. Address. Time. 1 week. "If you're not there, I'll assume you've made your choice." Leo sat alone after Ellis left, the card burning in his hand. He thought about everything he'd lost. The lies. The betrayal. The night it all went wrong. What if he failed again? What if he wasn't good enough? What if this was just another dead end? But then he thought of Maya's laugh, of late nights, writing songs under broken lights, of the fire in his chest when he believed in something. This was it. The final shot. Leo pocketed the card. Decision made. The studio was in a basement below a laundromat, the kind of place you'd miss if you blinked. Peeling posters lined the stairwell. Inside, it smelled like old wood, soldering wires, and something burning. Maybe ambition. Ellis was waiting. "Glad you made it." Leo nodded, unsure what to say. The first few days were brutal. His voice cracked from disuse. His fingers, once calloused and quick, now stumbled over strings. Ellis didn't coddle him, didn't compliment, just said, "Again." Every time Leo flinched. He slept on a cot in the back room, swept floors when he wasn't recording, ate whatever was cheap and warm. Every morning he thought about leaving. Every night he picked up the guitar instead. Sometimes he cried, quietly, in the dark. It wasn't the work that broke him. It was facing himself. But slowly, something shifted. The first time Ellis nodded and said, "Not bad." It felt like a damn trophy. Leo started to write again. Lyrics full of grit, truth, and jagged edges. Songs that didn't try to sound pretty. They sounded real. Still, the setbacks came hard. One night, he froze mid-take. Couldn't breathe. Memories of the warehouse, the flashing lights, the shouting. Ellis didn't yell. Just turned off the mic and sat beside him. "You're not that guy anymore," he said. "But if you keep carrying him around, you'll never be more than his shadow." That stuck. Leo started showing up different, less afraid, more open. He still messed up, still doubted, still had nights where he questioned it all. But he stopped running, started owning it. The fall, the scars, the slow rise. Weeks passed. Tracks piled up, not perfect, but honest. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Leo began to believe maybe he was worth saving. Maybe the climb was the point. Here we go. Time for the twist that cuts deep, followed by that moment of light where everything could start turning around. The emotional stakes stay high, and Leo's resilience is really tested here. Let's dive in. It happened just when things started to feel real. Ellis had set up a meeting with someone, a low-key producer with indie pull, someone who might be able to get Leo on a playlist, maybe even a gig. "He likes raw. What you're doing is raw," Ellis had said. Leo didn't let himself hope too much, but the fire in his chest was back. The meeting went well. Better than well. The guy loved Leo's sound, said it reminded him of pain he hadn't heard put into words before. "We can work with this," he said. "We can sell this." Leo floated home that night, thoughts full of maybes and what-ifs. Then he saw the news. Tommy arrested. Major sting. Names dropped. Connections being traced. And one of those names? Ellis. Leo stared at the screen, heart hammering. The man who'd helped him back up, who gave him the studio, the shot, was under investigation. Former ties to distribution rings, backdoor deals with washed-out dealers trying to go legit. Was it all a lie? He stormed into the studio, card clenched in his fist. "Did you use me?" Ellis didn't flinch. "I got out, long time ago." "You said you used to run a halfway house. You didn't say you ran drugs out the back of it. I told you I've been where you are. Didn't lie about that." Leo felt like the ground tilted under him. Everything he'd built, every lyric he'd bled out in that room. Was it just another hustle? "I believed in you," Leo said quietly. Ellis sighed. "Then don't stop now." Leo stood at the edge again. Trust shattered, path unclear. He could walk, start over, disappear again, or go all in. Not for Ellis, for himself. He looked down at his calloused hands, at the key to the studio, and stayed. The next morning, Leo walked into the studio and didn't wait for direction. He sat at the mic, guitar in hand, and hit record. He didn't sing for Ellis, or the producer, or the world. He sang for every broken night, every wrong turn, every version of himself that thought it was over. The words poured out like confession, raw, cracked, alive, not perfect, true. And something clicked. Ellis didn't say anything when it ended. Just walked over, hit play, and they listened. The room felt full, heavy, right. That track made its way into the producer's hands, then onto a playlist, then a small radio station, then a bar gig, real stage, real lights. Leo played to a crowd of 15 people, like it was 15,000. A girl in the back sang along. His words, his song. It wasn't fame. It wasn't money. But it was a start. For the first time, Leo saw what all the pain had shaped him into. Someone who could weather storms and still stand. Someone who didn't just survive the fall, but learned how to rise. He still had a long way to go, but now he knew the direction, and he wasn't walking it alone. Here it is, the final stretch of Leo's journey. We're going to bring everything to a head with the final test, then ground the entire arc in a powerful emotional payoff with the new beginning. This is where it all comes together. The scars, the climb, the choices. The gig wasn't supposed to be big. A local showcase, independent artists, one shot, one song each. The room could hold maybe 50 people, but the word had gotten out. The playlist buzz, the radio spins. Leo's name had started making quiet noise. Then came the call. The headliner bailed. "Leo, you're up. Main slot. Full set." Ellis watched him process the news. "This is it," he said. "You ready?" Leo didn't answer. Not at first, because part of him still wasn't sure. What if he froze again? What if no one showed? What if Tommy showed? What if Ellis was arrested mid-set and it all came crashing down? But another part of him, deeper, steadier, whispered, "You've already been at the bottom. This is just the next step up." The night of the show, the room was packed. Not thousands, but enough. More than enough. Leo stood backstage, gripping his guitar so tight his fingers ached. He could hear the crowd, laughter, clinking glasses, someone asking, "Is this the guy from the radio?" He looked down at the same guitar that had followed him through everything. The one he nearly pawned. The one that still carried his mother's touch in the faded strap. Then he stepped into the light. The crowd hushed. Leo took a breath. One long inhale of fear, faith, and every failure that had led him here. He opened with that song. The one from the studio, the raw one. His voice cracked halfway through the second verse, but he didn't stop. He didn't hide it. He leaned in. He gave them everything. And something shifted in the room. Not loud, not flashy, just real. You could feel it. That thread of connection, running from him to them and back again. A loop of pain turned into power. By the final chorus, the room sang with him. And when the last note faded, there was silence. Then eruption. Applause. Real, earned applause. Leo blinked under the lights, sweat and tears mixing. He'd done it. Not because someone gave him a break, because he didn't break. It wasn't overnight success. There were still rejection emails, still bills, still moments of doubt. But something had changed. Leo had changed. He started booking more gigs. Open mics turned into features. Studio time came easier. People listened, not because of hype, but because they felt him. Maya reached out once. Just a message. "I heard your song. I'm proud of you." He didn't need more than that. It was enough. He visited his mother's grave. Played her a song. Said nothing. Let the chords speak for him. Ellis disappeared for a while. Legal troubles, maybe. But he left the studio keys with Leo. "Keep building," the note had said. And he did. The climb wasn't over. But Leo was no longer running from the fall. He was using it. Every scar, a verse. Every misstep, a melody. And sometimes, when the nights were quiet, he'd look back at where it started. The park bench, the cold coffee, the moment he could have said no but didn't. The moment he chose himself. "What will you do with your one shot?" That's what Leo would ask the kids who came to open mic nights now, hands shaking just like his had. Because everyone has a fall. Not everyone finds the courage to climb. But if you do, everything can change.